So after grad school, I kind of, I had to move out of my studio, and I did have a small space at my apartment where I could work, but it really wasn't enough space. And my husband and I were living in London, and I was just thinking I should really take advantage of being right here in Europe, closer to a lot of these opportunities than I will be if and whenever we move back to the States. So, and also I need a studio space. So it was a way to kind of travel and get a studio space for a month or 2 months or 3 months at a time for me. And so that's what I spent the next year doing, is just applying really voraciously all over to residencies. And it started with one in India, which was fantastic. I didn't make that much work. It was much more of like a research and immersion type of residency, but it really turned me on to that country and that culture and the images and the resources for my work that are available there. So
where in India?
That one was in Orissa, which is like a rural eastern state of India, and it was kind of an immersion in the tribal cultures there. So we were visiting tribes and got all this beautiful like photography from this. A lot of the artists I was with were photographers, and but also we were having seminars about our research and writing, and so it was much more geared towards that. But the whole time I was kind of gathering all this material, all this imagery, and the whole sense of the intense spirituality there, the intense colors, the just saturation of everything in India, and bringing that back to my studio and trying to make sense, trying to include some of those sensibilities in my work. And so the next residency I did after that was another one in India, because I really wanted to go back. And that one was, I almost only did work. I did go out into India while I was there, but I was much more productive this time, and kind of making small paintings that eventually they either exist on their own or they became bigger works. And it was there that I kind of started including some of the imagery that I was gathering there. But I'm still obviously using that stuff, and just all of this culture of the Hindu gods and goddesses and their kind of extremely fantastical and surreal representations. I love those, and I've always been interested in kind of combining human and animal forms and human forms in fantastical ways. So that was really good for me. And then immediately after that I went to a residency in Sicily, which was a mural residency where you spend the whole time making a mural for this small town near Taormina. And you have to like get it approved and everything, but you really are kind of given free rein to do your own work. And so what I did was a really blown up version of a painting that I had done in India, but that that involved some Italian imagery. It had one figure from a Commedia dell'arte, the old theater form from Italy, and kind of went along with this interest that I'm having in costume and mask and the performer. And then it also had a silhouette of a figure, which in my original painting, it was a figure kind of on fire. But the town hall had issues with that because they were right near a volcano, and kind of the image of a man on fire is very fraught for them. So eventually it was changed, and I think the change was definitely for the better at that scale and in that context. Is I put it was a silhouette of the volcano Etna, which is right nearby, erupting within this figurative form. So going back to all of what I've been talking about in terms of the body kind of exploding out of itself, and volcanic eruption is certainly jives with that. So then after that, I came back to London and had kind of a lull of working small and going to see a lot of work, because I knew it was my last, by then I knew it was my last few months in London, so I was going and seeing as much as I could while I was still there. And then we moved out of our London flat, moved into one in Rome where I had a residency for 3 months. And that was amazing because it was like being back in grad school in terms of getting studio visits. I had a lot of studio visits from people in Rome, and the residency coordinators had set that up for me, and that was the best part for sure, was just getting that dialogue back. And it really drove me to start making work, and big work again, because I had a nice big space. And then after that, I got a residency in Vienna that I wasn't really planning on doing. I wasn't expecting to get, but it was kind of a opportunity that I couldn't miss out on. So I extended my European stay further for another 2 months, and that one was much more. It was a small group who I bonded with really closely while I was there, but also made a lot of work, and we had a show, and the residency was really heavily supported by both government and a private fund, Culture Contact Austria, and so that was really great. One of the best residencies I've ever done. So, and yeah, then I came here.